London, 1941. The city is under blackout, and the war is at a critical point. Inside a secure government building, a group of Allied officers and intelligence analysts gathers in a war room. The table before them is filled with intercepted German messages. Each message appears as a random string of letters, impossible to decipher. The officers are tense and exhausted. Every day, more Allied ships are being sunk in the Atlantic. Every week, the enemy seems to know the Allies' plans before they unfold. The cause is a German device known as the Enigma Machine. The Enigma Machine resembles a typewriter, but it has much more to offer. It uses a complex system of rotors and electrical circuits to convert regular messages into secret codes. The German military believes the Enigma is unbreakable. They use it to send orders to their armies, air force, and U-boats. Every vital German command is shielded by Enigma. For the Allies, Enigma is a nightmare. British and American codebreakers work day and night, but the codes change daily. Each new message is a fresh puzzle, and failing to solve it can lead to dire consequences. If the Allies cannot decode the German messages, they cannot safeguard their ships or plan their attacks. This one machine could lead to the loss of the war. The stakes could not be higher. If the Enigma machine stays unbroken, Germany could dominate the seas, win crucial battles, and possibly force the Allies to surrender. The outcome of World War II hangs not only on the battlefield, but also in the hidden war of codes and ciphers. This is the story of how the Enigma machine nearly secured victory for Germany, and how a group of determined individuals fought to uncover its secrets. Long before World War II, secret communication was already significant in military history. Armies and governments have always needed ways to send messages without the enemy understanding them. In ancient times, people used basic codes, like swapping letters or using secret symbols. During World War I, both sides used more advanced ciphers, but most could eventually be broken with enough effort and time. After World War I, the demand for better security increased. In the early 20th century, a German engineer named Arthur Scherpius invented a new type of cipher machine. He called it the Enigma Machine. Initially, Scherpius aimed to sell his invention to banks and businesses wanting secure communications, but soon the German military recognized its potential for warfare. The Enigma machine looked like a small typewriter, but inside it contained a complex system of rotors, wires, and electrical circuits. When a letter was typed on the keyboard, the machine scrambled it into another letter using a unique pattern set by the rotors. Each time a key was pressed, the rotors turned, changing the pattern for the next letter. This meant the same letter could be encoded as something different each time it appeared in a message. The real strength of Enigma came from its settings. Each day, the German military would set the rotors to a specific starting position, connect wires into a plug board to swap pairs of letters, and sometimes even add extra rotors for more complexity. The number of possible combinations was astronomical, over 150 million. Without knowing the exact settings for a given day, it was nearly impossible to decode a message. The German Army, Navy, and Air Force all adopted the Enigma machine in the 1930s. They believed it was unbreakable. German officers were trained to change the settings daily and to destroy their machines if there was any risk of capture. Confidence in Enigma was so high that some German commanders even sent personal or sensitive messages, assured that no one could ever read them. The Allies quickly recognized that Enigma posed a serious threat. Every German order, from U-boat attacks in the Atlantic to troop movements on the Eastern Front, was shielded by Enigma. The British and their allies intercepted thousands of messages, but without the daily settings, the codes were just meaningless strings of letters. The Enigma machine represented more than just a tool. It was a symbol of German technological power and secrecy. It gave the German military a significant advantage in the early years of the war. As long as Enigma remained unbroken, the Germans could coordinate their forces in secret, launch surprise attacks, and stay ahead of their enemies. For the Allies, breaking Enigma became one of the most urgent and difficult challenges of the war. It was a race against time, with the outcome of the conflict hanging in the balance. By the late 1930s, the Enigma machine had become a standard tool for the German military. The Army, Navy, and Air Force each had their own versions of the machine, with slight differences in settings and procedures. Every branch of the German armed forces relied on Enigma to keep their communications secret and secure. The German army used Enigma to send orders between headquarters and field units. These messages included everything from daily reports and supply requests to detailed plans for attacks and troop movements. For instance, on the Eastern Front, Enigma messages coordinated the massive movements of tanks and infantry during Operation Barbarossa, the invasion of the Soviet Union. Commanders trusted that their orders would reach the front lines without being intercepted or understood by the enemy. The German Navy, known as the Kriegsmarine, took Enigma's security even further. The Navy's version of the machine was more complex, with extra rotors and stricter procedures. U-boat commanders in the Atlantic used Enigma to receive instructions about where to find and attack Allied convoys. These messages were sent from bases in occupied France and Germany, allowing U-boats to change course and strike with deadly surprise. The Allies called this period the happy time for U-boats because so many ships were sunk and so few submarines were caught. The German Air Force, or Luftwaffe, also depended on Enigma. Pilots and ground crews received coded orders about bombing raids, fighter patrols, and supply drops. During the Battle of Britain, for example, Enigma messages directed waves of bombers toward British cities and airfields. The speed and secrecy of these communications made it difficult for the British to predict or stop the attacks. Enigma was not just used for battlefield orders. The German High Command sent political and diplomatic messages using the machine. Even personal messages between senior officers and their families sometimes went through Enigma because it was seen as completely secure. This confidence in Enigma was almost absolute. German officers were trained to follow strict security procedures, such as changing the machine's settings every day and destroying the device if there was any risk of capture. Many believed that the Enigma code was mathematically impossible to break. Some even joked that it would take the enemy thousands of years to read a single message. This sense of security led to a certain arrogance. As the war went on, some German operators became careless. They reused phrases, sent similar messages, or failed to change settings as often as they should have. However, the German military mainly believed that Enigma gave them a secret advantage. They could coordinate attacks, move troops, and launch surprise operations, while keeping their plans hidden from the Allies. For the first years of the war, this belief was justified. The Allies intercepted thousands of Enigma messages, but without the daily settings, the codes remained unbreakable. German commanders felt safe sending even the most sensitive information over the radio. Enigma was more than just a machine. It was a shield that protected the German war effort and allowed them to strike with speed and confidence. The power of Enigma was clear on every front. It was a key reason why Germany was able to achieve so many early victories and why the Allies struggled to keep up. As long as Enigma remained secure, the outcome of the war was far from certain. When the Allies first encountered the Enigma machine, they quickly realized they faced a new kind of enemy. The codes produced by Enigma were unlike anything seen before. Each message was a jumble of random letters, and the pattern changed with every keystroke. British and French intelligence agencies began collecting intercepted German radio messages in the 1930s, but no one could make sense of them. Early attempts to break Enigma were met with failure. Mathematicians and linguists tried every trick they knew, but the machine's complexity defeated them. The daily changing settings meant that even if a message was intercepted, it would be useless by the next day. The Allies could only guess at the contents, and their guesses were almost always wrong. The impact of this failure was felt throughout the war. In the Atlantic, German U-boats hunted Allied convoys with deadly efficiency. The U-boats received their orders through Enigma, allowing them to coordinate attacks and avoid Allied patrols. British and American ships were sunk in huge numbers. Supplies of food, fuel, and weapons to Britain were threatened. At times, it seemed possible that the U-boats could starve Britain into surrender. On land and in the air, the story was the same. German armies moved with speed and precision, often catching the Allies by surprise. Luftwaffe bombers struck British cities and airfields with little warning. Allied commanders knew that the Germans were using radio to coordinate their attacks, but without the ability to read Enigma messages, they were always one step behind. Inside the codebreaking centers, the mood was grim. At Bletchley Park in Britain, teams of mathematicians, engineers, and linguists worked around the clock. They filled notebooks with calculations, tried endless combinations, and built mechanical devices to test possible settings. But the Enigma code seemed impossible to crack. Every day brought new messages, new failures, and new frustrations.
The pressure was intense. The lives of sailors, soldiers, and civilians depended on their success. Every time a convoy was lost or a city was bombed, the codebreakers felt the weight of the responsibility. Some worked themselves to exhaustion, barely sleeping or eating. Others began to doubt that the code could ever be broken. Despite the setbacks, the Allies refused to give up. They knew that breaking Enigma was the key to turning the tide of the war. The struggle became a race against time, with the fate of nations hanging in the balance. The codebreakers at Bletchley Park and other centers became unsung heroes, fighting a silent battle in the shadows. For months and even years, the Enigma Machine remained a wall the Allies could not climb. The sense of despair was real, but so was the determination to keep trying. The story of the Allied struggle against Enigma is one of frustration, sacrifice, and relentless effort. A battle fought not with guns, but with minds and courage. The struggle to break the Enigma code seemed hopeless for years, but the first real breakthrough did not come from Britain or America. It came from Poland. In the early 1930s, the Polish Cipher Bureau began studying German radio traffic. They realized that the Germans were using a new kind of machine to encrypt their messages. The Poles didn't have the resources of larger countries, but they had brilliant mathematicians. 3 young Polish mathematicians, Marian Rejewski, Jerzy Ruzicki, and Heinrich Zygalski, were given the task of breaking Enigma. Using mathematics, logic, and a bit of luck, Rejewski managed to reconstruct the wiring of the Enigma machine. The Poles even built their own copies of Enigma and developed early machines called bombas to help test possible settings. By the mid-1930s, the Polish team could read some German messages, but as the Germans improved Enigma, the task became harder. In 1939, with the threat of war growing, the Polish Cipher Bureau made a crucial decision. They shared everything they knew about Enigma with British and French intelligence. In a secret meeting near Warsaw, the Poles handed over their replica machines, codebooks, and all their research. This act of cooperation gave the Allies a vital head start. When the war began, the British set up a code-breaking center at Bletchley Park, a country estate north of London. Here, mathematicians, engineers, and linguists from across the country gathered to tackle the Enigma challenge. Among them was Alan Turing, a brilliant mathematician whose ideas would change the world. Turing realized that breaking Enigma was not just a matter of luck or guesswork. It required a new kind of thinking, a combination of mathematics, engineering, and logic. He designed an electromechanical machine, known as the bomb, which could quickly test thousands of possible Enigma settings. With the help of the Polish breakthroughs and the hard work of hundreds of people at Bletchley Park, the Allies began to make progress. The first successful decryptions came in 1940. Suddenly, messages that had been unreadable were now open to Allied eyes. The codebreakers called this intelligence ultra. It was so valuable that only a handful of top commanders were allowed to know its true source. The information from ultra helped the Allies avoid U-boat traps, plan counterattacks, and save countless lives. The impact was immediate and dramatic. For the first time, the Allies could see inside the German war machine. They could anticipate attacks, protect convoys, and disrupt enemy plans. The Germans had no idea that their most trusted code had been broken. They continued to use Enigma, believing it was still secure.
The turning point in the code-breaking war was more than just a technical achievement. It was a victory of international teamwork, creativity, and determination. The work of Polish mathematicians, the sharing of knowledge with Britain, and the brilliance of Alan Turing and his team at Bletchley Park changed the course of World War II. The story of cracking Enigma reminds us that some of the most crucial battles are fought quietly by people whose names are often forgotten. Their success marked the start of modern code breaking and laid the groundwork for the computers and technology we use today. After the Allies began breaking Enigma codes, the war of intelligence turned into a tense game of cat and mouse. The Germans were unaware that their secret messages were being read. However, they constantly sought ways to make Enigma even more secure. As the war progressed, they added new features and stricter procedures to protect their communications. One significant change was the addition of more rotors to the Enigma machine. Initially, the Army and Air Force versions used 3 rotors, but in 1942, the German Navy introduced a 4-rotor Enigma for its U-boats. This extra rotor increased the number of possible settings from millions to billions, making the code much harder to break. The Allies suddenly found themselves locked out of U-boat communications just as the Battle of the Atlantic reached its most dangerous stage. The Germans also tightened their security procedures. They ordered operators to change the machine's settings more frequently and use more complex plugboard arrangements.
They gave strict instructions to destroy Enigma machines and codebooks if there was any risk of capture. At times, they even altered how messages were formatted, making it difficult for codebreakers to identify patterns or repeated phrases. For the codebreakers at Bletchley Park, every German improvement meant starting over. When the four-rotor Enigma was introduced, the team had to redesign their bomb machines and come up with new techniques. It took months of hard work, and during that time, Allied convoys faced heavy losses. The pressure was immense, and the fear of losing their advantage loomed constantly. Several moments almost caused the Allies to lose their edge. In one case, a German officer realized that some of his messages were being intercepted and suspected a security leak. He reported his concerns, but his superiors dismissed them, thinking Enigma was still unbreakable. In another instance, a U-boat carrying Enigma materials was sunk, but the crew managed to destroy the machine and codebooks before they could be seized. At times, the Allies got lucky. On a few occasions, German operators made mistakes, such as sending the same message twice with different settings or using predictable phrases. These errors provided the codebreakers with valuable hints and helped them regain lost ground. However, the risk was always present. If the Germans had realized the truth, they could have completely overhauled their systems, shutting the Allies out for good. The race between codemakers and codebreakers was unrelenting. Every day, the teams at Bletchley Park worked to keep pace with German changes, while the Germans aimed to stay one step ahead. It was a battle of wits, fought in secrecy, with the war's outcome hanging in the balance. The cat-and-mouse game between Germany and the Allies showed how fragile the advantage was. A single change in procedure or a new piece of technology could shift the balance. The codebreakers understood that their success relied not just on skill and hard work, but also on luck and timing. In the end, the Allies managed to keep up with most German improvements, but it was never simple. The struggle to break Enigma was a constant race, with victory and defeat separated by the slimmest of margins. The Battle of the Atlantic was one of the most critical campaigns of World War II. For Britain, survival depended on supplies brought by ship from North America. Food, fuel, weapons, and troops all had to cross the Atlantic Ocean, a journey made perilous by German U-boats lurking beneath the waves. The German Navy used Enigma-protected radio messages to coordinate submarine attacks, making the U-boats be deadly and nearly invisible threat. At the height of the battle, German U-boats operated in wolf packs, groups that could strike quickly and disappear just as fast. Using Enigma, German commanders sent precise orders to their submarines, directing them on where to find Allied convoys and when to attack. The Allies could intercept these radio messages, but without the Enigma settings, the information was useless. The U-boats seemed to know precisely where to strike, causing Allied losses to climb. By 1942, the situation became desperate. Merchant ships were being sunk faster than they could be replaced. Britain's food and fuel supplies dropped to dangerously low levels. There were real concerns that the country could be starved into surrender. The Royal Navy and Allied air forces tried everything: new tactics, better weapons, and increased patrols, but nothing worked while the U-boats could communicate in secret. The search for a solution became urgent. At Bletchley Park, codebreakers worked day and night to break the new four-rotor Enigma used by the German Navy. The challenge was immense, and for months the Allies were shut out of U-boat communications. Each day brought more ship losses, and the pressure on the codebreakers escalated. A breakthrough finally occurred in early 1943. Allied forces captured key Enigma materials from German weather ships and U-boats. These included codebooks and rotor settings, providing the hints the codebreakers needed. With this information, the team at Bletchley Park could read U-boat messages again. For the first time in months, the Allies could identify the locations of the wolf packs and steer convoys away from danger. The impact was immediate and dramatic. Allied ships began avoiding U-boat traps, and the number of sinkings dropped sharply. The Royal Navy and Allied air forces could now hunt U-boats more effectively, using the decrypted messages to locate and destroy them. The power balance in the Atlantic shifted. The U-boats, which once were the hunters, became the hunted. Breaking Enigma in the Battle of the Atlantic was a turning point in the war. It allowed Britain to remain supplied and in the fight. It also provided the Allies with the confidence to plan and execute major operations, including the D-Day invasion of Normandy. This secret victory over Enigma played a crucial role in the eventual defeat of Nazi Germany. The story of Enigma in the Atlantic serves as a reminder of how close the Allies came to disaster, and how a few codebreakers, working in secret, helped change the course of history. It is hard to imagine what might have happened if the Enigma code had never been broken. The outcome of World War II could have been very different. If the Germans had kept their communications truly secret, the Allies would have faced a considerably tougher fight on every front.
In the Atlantic, U-boats would have continued to sink Allied ships at a rapid pace. Without the ability to read Enigma messages, the Allies would not have known where the wolf packs waited. Britain's supply lines could have been cut, leading to serious shortages of food, fuel, and weapons. The threat of starvation and surrender would have increased month by month. On land, German armies could have moved and attacked with more surprise. The Allies would have found it hard to predict enemy plans or respond quickly to changing situations. Major operations like the D-Day invasion would have been much riskier. The Germans might have reinforced their defenses or launched counterattacks before the Allies could react. The war in the air would have been just as perilous. German bombers and fighters, guided by secret Enigma orders, could have targeted Allied positions with little warning. The cost in lives and resources would have been even greater. If Enigma had remained unbroken, the war could have lasted much longer. Some historians think that Germany might have forced a stalemate or even reached a negotiated peace, especially if Britain had been starved into submission. In the worst-case scenario, the Axis powers might have taken control of Europe, altering history for generations. Millions more lives could have been lost. The fragile line between victory and defeat was often invisible, decided by small advantages and hidden battles. The success in breaking Enigma was one of those hidden victories that made all the difference. The story of the Enigma Machine reminds us that history is not always determined by armies and battles alone. Sometimes it is the secret struggle of intelligence and code-breaking that shapes the fate of nations. The story of the Enigma Machine did not end with World War II. Its impact changed the fields of intelligence, technology, and security forever. The battle to break Enigma was not just a victory in war. It marked a new era in cryptography and computing. The techniques developed to break Enigma laid the groundwork for modern code breaking. Mathematicians and engineers at Bletchley Park came up with new ways to analyze patterns, test possibilities, and automate calculations. Their work directly contributed to creating some of the first electronic computers. Alan Turing's ideas in particular became the foundation for computer science as we know it today. After the war, the lessons learned from Enigma influenced how countries approached intelligence and security. Governments understood that secret communication was as crucial as weapons and armies. The Cold War saw a new race not just for military power, but for information and technology. Codebreakers and spies became as essential as soldiers on the front lines. Today, the legacy of Enigma lives on in cybersecurity. The same principles that protected German messages in the 1940s are used to secure digital information today. Banks, governments, and individuals all depend on encryption to keep their data safe. The struggle between code makers and code breakers continues, but now it involves computers and algorithms instead of rotors and wires. The story of Enigma also offers important lessons about secrecy, innovation, and vigilance. No system is ever completely secure. The Germans thought Enigma was unbreakable, but human creativity and determination proved otherwise. In every era, new challenges arise, and it is the willingness to adapt and innovate that makes the difference. Finally, the Enigma story highlights the power of teamwork and international cooperation. The victory over Enigma was possible because people from different countries and backgrounds collaborated, shared knowledge, and persevered. The Enigma Machine is now a symbol of both the dangers and the possibilities of technology. Its legacy serves as a warning not to underestimate the importance of information and a reminder to keep pushing the limits of what is possible. The story of the Enigma Machine illustrates how close Germany came to winning World War II through secrecy and technology. For years, the Enigma code gave the German military a crucial advantage. Their armies, navies, and air forces could move and strike in secret, while the Allies struggled to keep pace.
The outcome of the war balanced on a knife's edge, and for a time it appeared that the Enigma machine might tip the scales in Germany's favor. But the tide turned thanks to the determination and brilliance of people working behind the scenes. Mathematicians, engineers, linguists, and ordinary men and women at places like Bletchley Park and the Polish Cipher Bureau persisted. They worked in secrecy, often without recognition, driven by the hope that their efforts could save lives and change the course of history. Their success in breaking Enigma was one of the key hidden victories of the war. It allowed the Allies to safeguard their convoys, plan their operations, and ultimately defeat the Axis powers. The information gained from Enigma, known as Ultra, shortened the war and saved countless lives. However, for many years, the story remained a closely guarded secret, and the people who made it happen received little credit. Today, the Enigma machine stands as a symbol of both the dangers and the possibilities of technology. It's exhibited in museums around the world, a reminder of the silent war fought in the shadows. The machine's unique design and the story of its code continue to intrigue historians, cryptographers, and the public alike. The legacy of Enigma is not just about machines and codes. It reflects the power of human ingenuity, the significance of teamwork, and the courage to confront overwhelming odds. The secret that almost won the war for Germany became the secret that helped save the world.